Good day, I am Jamal Liza Baluma reporting the Chapter 9 Organization for Personnel. Objectives: to briefly understand what organization of personnel is all about, to explain the different types of training, to give the different functions of supervision or responsibilities of superior and discharge to proper responsibility of the supervisor. The most complicated problem of business is people. Technically, processes may be mastered, requirements of materials may be correctly figured, plants and offices may be built according to requirement specifications, and integrate machines may be devised for performance with accuracy, but if the human elements in business are disregarded, trouble is ahead. Human beings essentially differ from each other. They cannot be standardized like eliminated things. They are dynamic, not static. The most certain thing about people is their uncertainty. Human beings are also, to a certain extent, selfish both by nature and by environment. A person who is an altruist is one who has regard for and is devoted to the interests of others than himself alone. Altruism is a desirable trait to be aspired for, but it is generally hard to find among people in its ideal form. There are some people who seem to lack even a trace of altruism in their makeup. Still others believe that there is such a thing as enlightened self-interest, which may be made to benefit everybody through cooperation. Though self-interest and the welfare of others do not have to conflict with each other, both can be achieved or satisfied at the same time. The basic personnel problem. The basic problem about personnel is that the employer has work to be done. The employee wants to receive for his work enough money to live according to the standard of living as established for himself. When the employer has to pay too much to get the work done, the increased cost will be reflected in the higher price of the finished product to the point of diminishing orders from customers. On the other hand, if the employee cannot get the money that he thinks he is worth, he will leave the job or look for another job elsewhere. Increasing the efficiency of the workers. The desire of the employer to bring down his cost of production and the desire of the employee to have adequate returns from his efforts are two economic objectives according opposite each other, and which must have to be reconciled. Both objectives may be attained by increasing the efficiency of the workers. This simply means making it possible for an employee to accomplish more work with less effort and in less time. The direction and control of all human resources is called manpower management. It includes not only personal organization and administration, but the handling of line employees by their line supervisors. Industrial relations is a term gaining wider acceptance in present-day business organization and highlights the growing importance of labor management relationships as a factor to be reckoned with in business. Whatever name is given to the personal function, the objectives remain the same: to obtain capable employees, to utilize their effort effectively, and to maintain a willingness to work to achieve the purpose of the organization. In successful personal organization administration, there are 6 main factors involved, namely: first, analysis of the job; second, selection and testing of applicants; third, induction and training; fourth, supervision and personal actions in the work process; fifth, providing an incentive together with wage administration; and lastly, cooperation between the labor and management. Analysis of the job. The term job analysis has long had two recognized meanings with corresponding objectives. The first is that analysis of the job applies to the more or less superficial study of each job or work satisfactorily. The resulting information is summarized in a job specification which is used in selecting applicants for employment. The objective is to make it possible for the interviewer to match more intelligently the applicant's qualification with the requirements of the job. The second is the job analysis means the improvements of the methods of the doing the work. This is more of dissecting the work rather than describing it. As a result of the above described detailed survey, several facts may be revealed. First, the light may be inadequate or may come from the wrong direction. Second, the machine may be in poor condition or may be obsolete. Third, the materials may cannot come in the proper shape to work on. Fourth, the tools may be dull, not appropriate, or even lacking. And the fifth one is the worker may make any necessary motions which only spend time unprofitably, but likewise throw him quickly. And lastly, the work may not be arranged to the best advantage. Time study. The purpose of time study, as distinguished from motion analysis, is to determine the time required to perform each element in the operation, each operation in the job and the job itself. There are two reasons for time study. The first is to provide a basis for comparing performance of the same job and to establish a standard of time for doing the work. An important consideration in this regard are the variations as to time and as to the causes. One thing to remember is that any variation of the standard operations must be eliminated or minimized provided, of course, that conditions are standardized. The second one is to make possible the payment of workers on a production basis or on the basis of output. Selection and testing of applicants. The selection of the persons best fitted to the work involves finding resources of desirable applicants, followed by interviewing, testing, and choosing from those available the ones who must nearly have the required qualifications. Sources of applicants. The science and art of employment and recruiting is not as highly developed in the Philippines as in industrialized countries. The fact that almost 10% of the labor force is unemployed or seriously underemployed results in an abundance of oversupply of laborers, clerks, and certain types of personnel like lawyers. There is, however, a serious shortage of management personnel, supervisors, and various types of skilled workmen. Sources of labor supply are to be fluid and variable. The selection procedure. This involves a sequence of functions adopted in a given case for the purpose of ascertaining the wisher or not candidates possess the qualifications called for by a specific job. In some cases, the qualification of a progress of jobs are considered when promotional possibilities are important. This hiring procedure cannot be effectively placed in operation until three major steps have been taken. First, requirements of the job to be filled have been specified. Second, qualifications workers must possess have been specified. And lastly, candidates for screening have been recruited. Selection. The selection of promising candidates from a group of applicants is not easy. Certain facts or features such as sex, or age, schooling, and previous employment are readily ascertained and checked. On the other hand, the intangibles are the ones that make the choice difficult. Suppose an applicant has worked for a certain time in a certain company. What did he do there? Did he do the work? Was his work satisfactory? Did he get along with the other employees in a good way? Would his former employer re-employ him? If not, why? Testing ability and aptitude. In addition to the factors considered in judging the applicants, it is desirable to find two other things. First, whether the applicant has any disease or tendency to disease which might spread among other employees or which might interfere with his own work sooner or later. This is done through a medical examination. Second, the applicant's present level of knowledge, ability, and intelligence with respect to the work contemplated. This is done through tests. Personnel administration has come up with tests which look into the second requirement. These tests are: first, intelligence test; a second, aptitude test; third, vocationally interest test; and fourth, proficiency test; and lastly, personality test. Aptitude testing is important when occupational ability is expected at the outset. Such ability will be acquired through training and experience on the job. Proficiency testing, on the other hand, is to determine whether or not the applicant possesses the specific capacity, ability, and skills required in the job for which he is being considered. And so, examples in words, training ability for certain kind of which is most likely to see for test the development of natural force as application for certain applicants. Second, giving test. Third, interview of the selected for medical examinations. Fifth, interview of personal life. This is something that induction and training. Induction is the procedure set for introducing new employees and orienting him in the company as a whole. Its importance cannot be overemphasized that the happiness of the new employee and effectiveness of his work depends upon the thoroughness with which induction is carried, as for instance, in the new employees getting a good start. The stage of induction should take into account two major aspects. First, acquainting the new employee with his new surroundings and its rules and regulations. And lastly, indoctrinating him in the philosophy of the company and its reasons for existence. More companies build their programs around the first of these aspects than the second. Nevertheless, an appreciation for the importance of indoctrination is growing. Purpose of induction. One of the purposes of induction is to give the new employees information about the company and the requirements and the facility provided for the employees. Such information includes working hours, rate of pay days, absences and tardiness requirements, vacation, special facilities, and the like. Training procedure. The conduct of training, it is not just enough to tell the new employee to do his work. Frequently has to be shown. The demonstration should be handled clearly so that the worker can easily understand and follow each step. One of the first things as instructor must learn is to have patience with the trainee who is endlessly trying to learn. Different steps in trainings. First, be sure that the new employee understands what you have in mind. Second, show him carefully what you want to be done using patience, going into details and explaining the importance of each step. Third, have him watch someone perform the work and let him ask questions. Fourth, review the instructions. Fifth, then let him practice the work under direct supervision, slowly at first. This is the time to correct false moves with patient explanation. Let him continue to practice until he has mastered the correct method. 6. Review the instruction again, and lastly, let him get more practice, gaining proficiency constantly until his output approaches the standard set for the work. The seed for training may arise because of: first, normal growth of expansion; second, labor turnover caused by transfers, resignation, retirements, marriages, and deaths; third, new precision or technologies; fourth, its usefulness as a tool of control; and lastly, its advantages in giving information, improving morale, or developing skills. The subject of training are even more varied. They may include job training, letter writing, public relations, industrial safety, company policies including the organizational setup, basic principles of economics, management and supervision, and human rights. Training may be on the job. This kind of training is essentially the job of the supervisor. In some cases, another experienced worker may be conduct the training, although he has the disadvantages of keeping him from devoting full time to his own job. A special instructor may also do the training. Training may be apprenticeship, formal and established apprenticeship procedures would include occasional lectures and classroom training. Some companies have vestibule schools, which are special workplaces set up near the factory with the same equipment as that is used in production, but with better trained instruction and an environmental conducting to learn. Training. This refers to a joint program of training in which schools and business cooperate. Selected students carry on regular school studies for periods ranging from 3 to 9 months and then work in some factory or office for a designated period of time, alternating in this fashion until the course is completed and the student is ready to accept permanent employment. The training is usually conducted in the connection with highly skilled or professional types of training. The Philippine College of Arts and Trade, Don Bosco often cooperate. Learning training. During periods of heavy demand for and short supplies of semi-skilled labor, industry is faced with the task of training green hands or learners. The learners usually receive a program of education and training. This is necessary because the learners come into the industry without the rudiments of industrial knowledge. Fourth, supervision. Supervision has its object rendering of assistance to a worker so that he may make the most of his time and effort. It is basically to direct the activities and to develop the worker. The following are the functions of supervision or responsibility of a supervisor. First, the supervisor gives help and encouragement to any worker who may need it. Second, he teaches the worker the correct way to do work and patiently watches him until he has mastered it. Third, the supervisor sees that the work is supplied to the worker when and as it is needed. Fourth, he sees that the work is turned out according to schedules. And fifth, to settle differences as they arise and those keep order within the unit, in addition to cooperative responsibilities. To discharge these responsibilities properly, the supervisor must understand what is required of his group, such as: first, he must know how to get work done and when it is being done correctly. Second, he must know how to give orders and instruction so that they will be understood and followed. Third, the supervisor himself must be careful and thoroughly trained for his job. The supervisor's job is to see to it that work is done is closest to the performance of actual work. Good supervision pays handsome dividends. Poor supervision is an expensive luxury. Take a right and wrong attitude and techniques of supervision. The wrong ones can be expensive and the right ones can save much time and money. Fifth, providing an incentive. An incentive is a stimulus to action. It affords strong encouragement to an objective. Its value lies in the fact that no one generally does anything without an incentive. People will usually carry on as far as they think worthwhile and then stop unless a further incentive appears. Wage administration is an integral part of the work of personal administration. Wage structures have to be set up. Employees must be paid according to their performances. Desirable employees must be attracted to enter the company and once inside, must be encouraged to remain. From the point of view of the company, it must also avoid excessive wage payments. It needs wage structures as a sound basis for budget estimates and to simplify the collective bargaining process. Wage payments may be on a time basis. Those wages may be paid according to the number of hours or days worked. A salary may be paid on a monthly basis. Payments may also be an output basis. Piecework is an example. An employee is paid for according to the number of units he or his group completes, or a fixed time may be set for a fixed unit of output. If the output is completed in less time, incentive payments may be given. Other incentives. Certain employee privileges and fringe benefits are intended to serve both as incentives and also as instances of labor management cooperation. These incentives and labor management cooperation activities are: first, extra payment for the time worked. These include extra pay for work performed during holidays, overtime pay, and cost of living allowances. Second, payments for time not worked. This includes sick leave, military leave, maternity leave, rest and break periods, vacation leave, and commutable transportation and representation allowances. Here, the employee gets paid even during certain periods when he is not working. The third is payments for employee security. The company either pays or contributes for social security, workmen compensation, retirement plans, insurance, pensions, credit unions, health and welfare funds, and similar projects for employee security. And fourth is non-production awards and bonuses. These include the Christmas bonus, anniversary bonus, safety bonus, birthday award, 10, 20, 30, 40, or 50-year awards either in cash, gold, watches, or other gifts. The fifth is employee services. These cover a wide field and include the provision by the employer for the employees of a cafeteria, beauty parlor, athletic team, company housing, company store, educational benefits, leisure trips, publications, free meals, hospital facilities, legal assistance, typing music, nursery services, parking space, reading rooms, restrooms, safety programs, company courses or buses, reading gifts, uniforms, and libraries. 6. Cooperation between labor and management. The approach used toward this end is brought by the organization of labor management, cooperation committees for the entire plant, the duties of which are chiefly the formulation of general policies, coordination, and supervision. This is further extended into committees which deal with specialized activities such as safety and training. The committee should have half of its members from the employees group and the other half from the management. Collective bargaining refers to the process where representatives of labor and management meet and promptly and expeditiously and in good faith for the purpose of negotiating an agreement with respect to wages, hours of work, and other terms and conditions of employment, and of executing a written contract incorporating such agreement if requested by either party, or for the purpose of adjusting any grievances or questions arising under such agreement. Other personal actions. Other personal actions may take the form of promotions, transfers, disciplinary action, and separation. Scope of transfers and promotions. May vacancies are filled by internal movements of present employees. These movements are termed transfers and promotions. The former term refers to changes in which the pay, privileges, and status of the new position are approximately position commands higher pay, privileges, or status when compared with the same as of the old. In the case of promotions, the new position commands higher pay, privilege, or status promotion is to increase the effectiveness of the organization in attaining its service profit objectives. Disciplinary action. This term refers to the pace of management work which has to do when the employee is or is alleged to be at fault. Disciplinary action are generally preceded by corrective action. The various modes includes first oral reprimand, second written reprimand, fine, and fourth suspension, and fifth demotion, and as a last resort and dismissal. Involuntary separation may be for first economic reasons, disciplinary reasons, incompetence, or retirement. Economic reasons such as declining sales, loss of markets, reduced production, increasing costs, depression, and the like bring out the need for a policy on who among employees should go out first, benefits they may be entitled to, and other services. Separation or dismissal as a disciplinary action calls for personal policies whereby the separated employee knows fully and has had opportunities to discuss the reason for the dismissal. Separation for incompetence are basically a fault of poor recruitment, selection, and training. Retirement is involuntary in the sense that even if an And I will end my report by saying, if the worker hasn't learned, the instruction hasn't taught. That's all. Thank you and God bless you.